How did a strange Hungarian thriller set entirely in the Budapest subway system win international awards, launch its director into Hollywood, and still remain a film that most people never heard of? Before Nimród Antal made films like Predators and Vacancy in Hollywood, he made one of the strangest and most stylish Hungarian films of the 2000s. Kontroll is a darkly funny thriller set almost entirely inside the underground, a film about ticket inspectors, lost people, strange places, murder, and the feeling that something is always waiting inside the dark tunnel. The film starts with a strange introduction from a man who doesn't appear in the film and is not a filmmaker either. The man is Abba Botont, who was the CEO of BKV, Budapest public transport company at the time. This introduction was apparently one of the conditions for allowing the filmmakers to use the subway system as a shooting location. He basically explains that the film is a work of fiction and that all the characters are made up, something that could have been covered with a couple of written sentences on screen, but he adds a little personal flavor by saying things like he hopes he can call the director his friend. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but this out-of-place moment was actually really enjoyed by the audience, and it also helped the marketing. Today it is an essential part of Kontroll, included in practically every release, and has become a little piece of film history. Oh, and the title itself also works on several levels. In Hungarian, Kontroll refers to the ticket inspection, but the entire film is about control. Who has it? Who has lost it? But how do you make a story about ticket inspectors feel much larger and almost something mystical? I'm not going to spoil anything major here, but here is the setup. Kontroll follows Bulcsú, an introverted ticket inspector who has seemingly chosen to live underground in Budapest subway system. He works with a team of eccentric fellow inspectors and spends his days dealing with fare touchers, hostile passengers and rival crews. Meanwhile, the tunnels become increasingly strange and dangerous. What starts as a darkly funny look at the life beneath the city slowly turns into this kind of dark fantasy, with our hero confronting both what he is running from and something within himself. So who was this filmmaker who managed to turn this very Hungarian setting into something that international audiences actually enjoyed? The director, Nimród Antal, or Antal Nimrod, the way we say it in Hungarian, is an interesting guy. He was born to Hungarian parents in the United States in Los Angeles, but returned to Hungary around the age of 18 to go to film school here. After quite a few successful commercials and music videos, he first made a short film, a really good one I might add, and it is available here on YouTube, before getting the opportunity to make his debut feature. And he went all in. He made a film that worked both in Hungary and internationally, catapulting him back to the United States and into Hollywood. Since then, he has directed films such as Vacancy, Nimrod and Predators. He also directed a music video and a concert film Through the Never for Metallica, became friends with Robert Rodriguez, and even appeared in Machete as a henchman, sharing a brief scene with Danny Trejo.
Mit szólsz ahhoz, ha megölnélek téged, a kis majom? Just fucking with you, Chief. It's Hungarian for I'm gonna kill you, you little monkey.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. He later returned to Hungary to make another film, The Whiskey Bandit, a solid crime thriller before going back to direct several episodes of Stranger Things and other projects. He is still active and continues to work on new films. But what exactly made this strange, low-budget thriller stand out internationally? And how did they manage to make the Budapest underground so cinematic without actually spending a fortune? The film looks great. There are amazing shots with plenty of atmosphere, mood and character. Of course, the setting itself helps a lot, but the filmmakers add so much texture through clever lighting and camera angles. The budget was around 800,000 USD, so not huge by any means. And what you see was actually there, shot on film, not added later in post-production. The director of photography was Gyula Pados, another Hungarian who made it to Hollywood. As a cinematographer, he has continued to work on major A-list productions such as the recent Jumanji films and Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, and he's also attached to the upcoming Legend of Zelda film. Very cool. The film always reminds me a little of Luc Besson's Subway from 1985. I don't know whether it was a direct influence, but both films changed the underground transport system into this strange world filled with outsiders, music and exaggerated characters. Inspiration is a good thing, especially when it helps create another great piece of atmosphere, this time set beneath Budapest. And even though the film contains fantasy elements, it captures the mood and feeling of the subway system in a surprisingly authentic way. Budapest is the only city in Hungary with an underground railway, so it has always felt like something special. At least it did to me when I first came to the city. It is simply fun to see it from a different perspective and even get a glimpse behind the scenes, despite knowing that everything happening in the story is fictional. Another clever decision is that the film keeps us underground. The city above becomes abstract, almost non-existent, while the metro turns into a complete world of its own. It functions as a workplace, a home, and also as a prison. Of course, shooting inside a real, functioning subway system sounds very impressive, but how did they actually manage to do it without all the passengers being in the way? Well, they did it overnight, while the subway wasn't running. And that didn't leave them much time. Back then, the last train left around midnight, and the first one started running around 4:30, so they had barely 4.5 hours each night. On paper, the shoot lasted 35 days, but because of those limited hours, they actually worked across 93 nights. And just imagine, they still had to set up the lights and equipment, do the makeup, get everyone ready, shoot only a fraction of what a normal production day would allow them, and then clear everything away before the subway reopened. That's dedication. And I also have to mention the soundtrack by the Hungarian electronic group Neo. The music is a huge part of the atmosphere and helps the energy stay high even when not much action is happening. It complements the film perfectly. And how do you populate such an exaggerated underground world without making the characters feel completely artificial? The actors are all well-known Hungarian character actors, most of them with extensive careers across theater, television and film, and I have actually been lucky enough to work with a few of them myself. The acting can feel slightly theatrical, especially when compared to Hollywood and the American style of filmmaking. There is improvisation, heightened emotions, and a lot of theatrical energy, but it works because this is not exactly the real world. Everything is exaggerated and heightened, so the performances fit the film. But this is also part of the style of European and especially Hungarian filmmaking. Our actors talk a lot on screen. They shout, they become emotional, they deliver the meaning of a scene very directly. It is this mixture of American and Eastern European filmmaking that makes Kontroll so interesting. Visually, it does not really look like a typical Hungarian film, but the moment you press play, you are completely inside its world. It is also a mixture of comedy, tragedy, there is murder and mystery. You can laugh during one scene and feel genuinely sad during the next. The film takes you through a whole range of emotions, just as its characters experience them. There are also some fun cameos. Hungarian director Gábor Herendi appears as the paramedic who calmly discusses a recipe while working at a rather gory accident. It's one of those trademark dark comedy scenes from the film, really fun. Antal Nimrod became a more polished and experienced director after Kontroll, but did he ever make another film that felt quite this raw and personal? He went on to make quite a few films in Hollywood, and while many of them are enjoyable, they are still very much products of the studio system, so don't expect the same art house or experimental elements you find in Kontroll. As I mentioned, Nimrod returned to Hungary 14 years later to make The Whiskey Bandit, and while I really like that film, it feels much more restrained, controlled and conventionally directed than Kontroll. That is not necessarily a bad thing, the craft is there, but for me it does not reach quite as deeply as Kontroll does. So to answer the question on the thumbnail, what's down there? Well, you will have to find out yourself, but one thing's for sure, you will find a really great film. Oh yeah, and the subway system doesn't look like something out of Stalker anymore, trust me, it's been renovated. Stick around if you enjoyed this video, there's a lot more coming. Thanks for watching.